That's Tall Black Guy and Kevin Moore with Speak Your Mind. That was actually the perfect song to kind of tail our conversation.
It was definitely.
Well,
I was feeling the vibes afterwards as well.
Absolutely. Had a really, really nice sample there, didn't it?
Yeah, man.
From
So do you reckon it was a sample or do you reckon they played it? Do you reckon he just replayed the drum?
I don't know. I reckon it was a sample, personally. Yeah. It sounded exactly the same. I personally think it was. Our guest seems to think so as well. Yeah.
That bit.
Well, yeah.
A little bit more.
But yeah. I reckon that's a sample. Okay. Our guest seems to agree. Thumbs up from our guest. There we go. We should probably introduce said guest before people start thinking it's David Guest.
Or just no one's there and we're just imaginary guest.
David Guest is dead, isn't he?
Yeah, so he would be.
So it couldn't be
spirit.
him. Couldn't be him. Our guest is a fella called Adrian Stone. Right, let's give him the spirited round of applause first, and then I'll let you introduce yourself, because what you do, you're possibly the most interesting guest we've had on.
Wow.
In the history of the show, as long as it's been called the M&M show, this is the most interesting guest we've ever had. So I'll let you introduce yourself and what you do.
Wow. Let me introduce myself. My name is Adrian Stone. Background's a music producer. And the background track that you were just talking about, whether it was a sample or not, is by Active Force. It's called Gimme Your Love.
There you go.
Old school. I produced originally. I came up from Bristol to London to pursue my music career, to get into the music scene, the hip-hop scenes. That's my background.
Yeah.
And as a little one, I used to collect old school soul records like that.
Yeah.
Nice. So I kind of know. I got in the archive.
Yeah, there you
stash,
go. I can tell by the body language you knew what you were talking about. He was confident, so I was confident.
I was dying to jump in. I was like, hold my corner.
Consummate professional. Consummate professional.
Yeah, mute myself. But, down the line, down the years, I became what you call a genealogist, studying family history, tracing the lineage of our kings. So, you know where you get your king from, your grands and your greats, and supporting people to do the same. Yeah. But for myself, it was all about my mother, the inspiration. She was my mom, to kind of like trigger the whole thing. Yeah, it
was quite a tragic reason, wasn't it? Because she fell ill, didn't she?
Yeah.
And then you realised that you couldn't sort of trace your ancestors back past a certain stage or something, right?
A certain stage. I didn't know my grandparents' names.
Right.
From the very beginning, I was lost.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself when we thought she could have passed away. So it was just right there on the intensive care ward. I thought to myself, hold on a minute, if she passed, then the whole history passed, and I need to connect. And at that time, the family needed to connect, and I'm the family-oriented one. So for me, the way to connect with my family is to know more about her, her life, her legacy. Yeah. And I didn't know my grandparents' names. I just called them Mama and Papa. I didn't know the sinners. They passed when I was quite young.
That's a good point, actually. I don't know if I know all of my grandparents' names.
I'm trying to think when I found out my because you find out your grandparents' names later on, innit? Because you used to call them like Nana or Grandad, innit?
Yeah, it's true.
It's mad.
As far as I'm concerned, that's their names.
And especially in my times, as a young one, you couldn't ask them any question.
No, of course not.
What
do you know my first name for?
That's a backhand. You know what I mean? Ask them big people questions like, just sit down. That kind of thing. True. So it's never really occurred to me, and that's and this is going back 10 years to kind of think to myself, what's my grandparents' names?
Yeah.
The first name, not even the surname. And then it kind of went from there, and then I got stuck just going back great grandparents.
Yeah.
And that's when the records came in much later.
Yeah. So what sort of what was your method? How far afield did you go? Was it all kind of like London based, UK based, the research, or did you travel anywhere in your quest?
Well, there's a saying, isn't it? Everything starts at home.
Yeah.
So to speak to the elders and say, tell me, when my grandfather came, as well as his names and what you know. So one of my cousins sat me down with a little, sort of a fritter and a Guinness punch. And said, right, okay, real proper old school Sunday, and said, right, this is how it goes.
Yeah.
And I said, right, okay. So, then I got to kind of see, like, that's why the whole Windrush generation made more sense, because then I could discover that my father came in 1955, his wife 56, she followed, and that's the way it was. We kind of sent for each other, to set it up. So my grandfather bought a house, for my mum and the other two siblings to come over. So everything was already bought by the time they came. So all that was kind of that knowledge is power. So from there, just kind of knowing a few generations, I then stumbled across the records like your births and your marriages, your deaths, And these things I never knew existed. You always hear rumors like maybe the record office flooded or some hurricane and just wiped out everything. But I discovered that you can find in a certain time period the specific birth certificates of your ancestors, and that was quite incredible.
Yeah,
It's mad.
It really is. I've always been really, really intrigued about my sort of ancestors, how far I can trace back, but I've just never got around to doing it.
So hold a minute. So how far do you know? I need to know. So who I'm talking to.
I only know grandparents, I reckon, to be brutally honest with you. Maybe great.
So we're in the same Windrush boat.
Well, my parents are Nigerian.
Yeah,
okay.
You see, yeah. So they are Nigerian immigrants who came over in the late 70s. So I'm not Windrush.
So when I mean Windrush, we don't really mean the ship. We mean the generation.
So my nana and granddad came from Barbados, and then my dad's mum and his dad came over from Jamaica. So they was around the 50s time.
Oh, cool. We saying cuz.
Speaking of which, you found out that you are a relative of Grammy Award-winning singer Ella May.
Oh, you're gone too far, man. You've gone too far. We've got to pull the conversation back before we get there, you know? So the ship itself there, yeah. But to get to that point of knowing who I'm connected to, you've got to build this tree. And as you said, grandparents, we get lost, great-grandparents. And I had to kind of go through this, what we call civil registration records. This is when it was mandatory. This is when you had to record, your child's birth. And these kind of records enabled me to go back another generation and then going through some of the church records. In Jamaica, and this is where both of my parents were from. They were born there. So I'm the first generation. And then you're building this tree. You got you get past the pet names. You guys you heard the pet names?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, my granduncle who I had to call from Jamaica to kind of ask him, get some details from. I said, when's your dad born? And he said to me, well, on a Wednesday. Straight. So they don't celebrate birthdays. So there's so much difficulties and things like that to get, further back and pass the pet names, get the original certificates. And my tree started to grow. And that way you can start to connect with, maybe somebody else who's doing the tree and find your common ancestors and things like that. So how do we get to Ella May? You want to get straight into it?
Yeah, juicy bits, mate. Juicy bits.
Straight. Yeah. So basically, the way I connected it was I did a DNA test. You may have, it's a popular thing now. Not in the time that I started. So used Ancestry DNA to look at, where I was thinking my African origins. This is what I want to find, which tribe you belong to, even though I discovered that through the paper trail. But an interesting thing that Ancestry does, it tells you your genetic cousins. So it may identify somebody in the database who's actually related to you, and they would establish the relationship by the amount of DNA you share. Right? So when you do match with somebody and there's a picture, there's a whole profile, and you can message that person and say, hey, cuz, all that kind of stuff. This is, we're cousins, we're genetic cousins. They can share a family tree. So this particular person who matched with me had their family tree. I had my family tree and identified one of their cousins as my cousin, which was my great-grandmother's side. So Ella May is a cousin through second cousins.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So a bit further back, fourth cousins, but her great grandmother is a sister to my great grandmother.
Her great grandmother is a sister
to my great grandmother.
Great.
So it's quite close when you're looking at 1880s, that sort of period.
That's so mad.
That's mental.
Down the road.
And have you contacted her about it?
In the process. So I've met a lot of the family now.
Yeah.
Just the other day, I met some of the family just on my street.
No way.
At a gathering on my street.
Are you serious?
I swear, it paints such a mad picture when...
Are you serious?
I'm telling you, listen, this is, it's crazy. You never know who's on your doorstep. Be careful who you're talking to.
Do you know what though? I'm not gonna lie. Like my uncle done the same ancestry thing, and in Chingford where I live, we actually had cousins who he found who were literally they lived 5 minutes away from my old house, and
it's mental.
Through my uncle doing it, I found out that I actually had other cousins opposed to the cousins that I knew that lived there. So it was mad.
Wow.
It's right on our doorstep, and that's why you got to know.
You never know, innit?
Yeah, sometimes obviously through the surnames, that's how we know we're connected. But obviously, when the women in the family they get married or the children takes the father's name, then the history gets lost that way.
Yeah.
And just coming over, from Jamaica to England or the Caribbean or wherever you come from, those relationships get lost, but they're close back home. That generation was very close back home.
That's true. It's true. That's why it's always the best place to look, right?
Exactly.
Because they communicate a lot more, I suppose, in the sort of smaller rural settings than when they come to the big city. Oh, I like that. That's super interesting, man. And with is there still the pursuit of music as well along with the genealogy?
There's so much in store. How much I want to tell you? I haven't got the Men in Black light to this erase your memory. I give you too much. No, it definitely will come back full circle because my first love was music. And it's just amazing, like just doing the genealogy, connected to musicians. And there's many others that I've kind of like found on the way who also do music.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we're going to tell those stories, through music and other means of sort of creativeness.
Yeah.
So,
but in the meantime, you've established a workshop, haven't you?
Exactly. Tracing your Windrush roots. Really born out of the whole Windrush scandal to kind of urge me on to do something, to make people connect. So I was doing work before, and I just thought to myself, the workshops are very different. So you have some people that talk, but it's about walking you through the process. So you bring your family tree to the workshop, and I support you with the very first steps of how to trace. Very interactive, practical sessions where, some people are experienced, some people have no experience, and together we discover. We learn together, and sometimes we use case studies where it's somebody famous or somebody like myself, and we go through, the kind of challenges that you're going to experience when you're tracing. Because there's many people who have started to trace and they say, "Oh, I can't find this person." Maybe the way the records were recorded, that child. Their parents weren't married, so it creates all different types of problems. Or maybe page number 12 is missing, which is like an index or register. And I show you how to kind of get through what we call brick walls, where you get stuck.
Yeah.
So along the line of tracing, there's always going to become, a barrier, a brick wall where you can't get through and you can't find the information. Mm-hmm. So this workshop is kind of designed to kind of help you go through that whole thing.
Amazing. And when is it?
Right, I got a couple. Gosh, from my hometown, from Bristol, I have a workshop. That's coming up in July, the 27th, in London.
Yeah. Alexandra Palace, right?
No, that's already passed.
Jesus!
I'm moving, brother. I'm moving
you
quick.
Got one soon on the 22nd of June, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've got one coming up, as you said, 22nd of June, and that's in Lambeth College in Clapham. And following that, there's one in September and October, and you can find out information on my Instagram page.
Let's point to the Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram page. And also I'm doing one in Tottenham. I'm doing a partnership with Tottenham Hotspurs Foundation.
Okay, but all right.
I know.
No.
Hey,
I'm not going to Tottenham Hotspurs.
Tottenham. Yeah, so that's coming up on the 17th. So check again through my Instagram for all the details. And that's a free one. That's the only one that's free. It's an introductory workshop, 2-hour workshop in Tottenham. So come along, bring your family tree, bring your family, most importantly.
That is the most important thing, isn't it?
And I know that tickets can be purchased from tracingwindrushroutes.eventbrite.co.uk.
Yes.
You said it better than me. Say that again, because say that one more time.
Tracing windrushroutes.eventbrite.co.uk. Go and get tickets.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming in to chat to us, Adrian, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. People like you, Adrian said, you can find him all the details for his forthcoming workshops on his Instagram. We're going to get into a song now, and when we come back, we've still got two guests to come through, Bob Villan and Nim.